I see you found our little hiding spot in the universe. Don't get too comfortable. This is a place where you will find those with an experience that's out of this world, or possibly deep within your life. I welcome you to the Oracles with James Tyson. Lean forward and listen. We will pull you into a supernatural journey with guests from around the world, each one experiencing some of the most extraordinary phenomena this wee planet has to offer. Now, here are the Oracles with James Tyson.
Thank you, Liam, and thank you, listener, for tuning into today's episode of the Oracles with James Tyson. It's me, James, and today I'm happy to bring you Thiago Ticchetti. Now, Thiago is a ufologist out of the country of Brazil. He is a president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists, and this isn't just a group of guys that got together and say, hey, let's go out and we'll see if we can take pictures of UFOs. This is a pretty skookum group of gentlemen who are educated and know how to kind of circumnavigate the system. We're going to talk about some of the cases that go back into the 1950s in Brazil, where at the time the government kind of pushed them quietly off the shelf, saying, yeah, there's nothing really going on there. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. Move on. Well, through the Freedom of Information Act and the digging of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists, it's a little more complicated than that. They actually do have a lot of information. And this new book, UFO Contacts in Brazil, update a lot of those cases that were very well known back in the day. The Varginha Case, Operation Prato, the kidnapping or abduction of Antonio Villas-Boas. And if you haven't heard about these cases, they're all very well known in Brazil. And why we're touching on Brazil, in the last couple of years, you've probably seen a lot of government footage from fighter aircraft where they're tracking UFOs. This is all because of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists. They're the ones who've dug in the files and brought this up. In Thiago's book, which is close to 600 pages, I think there's 300 photographs in there, along with sketches, and they are evidence that came from the files that they got from the government. We're going to talk about why Brazil is seeing this increase in UFO reports. Well, I don't think it's really an increase. It's just, we'll talk about that. It's like the fifth largest country on the planet with a population of 200 million. So there are people out there who are going to see these kind of things. The cases in Brazil are among the most spectacular in ufological literature, and Thiago's book will amplify some of these encounters. Again, we're going to be talking about the well-known ones and digging into a little bit deeper. Thiago's father was a pilot in the Brazilian Air Force, and eventually he got put in charge of kind of the intel section. And Thiago was a little kid. He would go there and kind of, hey, Daddy, tell me about UFOs, and to say that every day kind of thing. And eventually his dad got tired and called one of the soldiers in and say, hey, get him the box of the files on the UFOs. And he started digging through those at the age of 10. And that's when he really got fascinated. Thiago is the co-editor and columnist for UFO Magazine and columnist for UFO Truth magazine, and has published dozens of articles for UFO Magazine and other foreign publications. And he's written I think 11 books. Again, this is the one we're going to be talking about, is the only one that's been translated into English or published in English right now. And if you want to go onto Amazon and look up UFO Contacts in Brazil, you'll see where you can get that book. Fascinating gentleman. Again, we're talking about a number of the cases. The more famous are the bigger cases of extraterrestrial or ET or UFO contact that have occurred in Brazil over the last 60 years. Hello, Thiago. How are you today?
I'm fine, James. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's fascinating. And I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite a bit here. And I'm especially talking about this first book of yours. Well, I shouldn't say first book. The first book that's coming out that is actually in English, that of all the books you've written, the UFO Contacts in Brazil. And I'm going to really like going over some of the cases that you've brought into there. Now, obviously, this wasn't your first book, and you've been doing this for quite a while, but what really got you hooked on ufology itself? And I know your father was in the Brazilian Air Force, so there's kind of that tie-in with planes and adventure and stuff around the house growing up. So where did it really start for you?
Yeah, well, because of my father, of course. My father was a Brazilian Air Force pilot, and he loved the subject. But I always say that I was born with ufology in my blood. When I start to read, the two things that I read was comic books, Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and UFO magazines. And my father, well, in 1992, perhaps before he passed away, he worked at A2 department. It was the A2 is the intelligence of the Air Force, Brazilian Air Force department. And he was divorced of my mom. And every Friday, my brother and I, we went to his office in the Santos Dumont Airport in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, to spend the rest of the day of the Friday and stay with him until Sunday. And I always ask him to show me what the A2 department had about UFOs, sighting report, photos, something like that. And he always said to me, well, we don't have nothing about it. Well, I think that I asked it for 1,000 times, million times to get access to these documents. And someday I asked him again, and he called to his soldier, to the corp of the department, and told him to bring the 2 boxes of files. And the soldier brought these 2 boxes, and I started to see the papers, the reports, and the most part of it was reports of pilots that saw something unusual in the sky and made a report. But one of the report was amazing because it was a report of a pilot, a civilian pilot. It's not a military pilot, but a civilian pilot. And the photo showed a perfect flying saucer, the classic flying saucer, with no windows. Was very shine metal silver object in daylight, and the photo was took on the left of the cockpit of the airplane. So the UFO was on the left, and was no far than 100 or 200 meters of the airplane, of the cockpit. And the photo was so amazing, so clear, that if someone shows this photo today, many ufologists would think that it was a fake, was a Photoshop photo, manipulated photo, that because it was so perfect. So my desire, my hook to ufology was because of that.
That is a good start. That is a wonderful start to actually see a photograph of a disc-shaped classic UFO taken from an aircraft in what basically is the restricted files of the Brazilian Air Force. So yeah, that's kind of a clue that you might be interested in UFOs. That's fascinating. And you I'm breaking things in here. Now you're also the president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists. Describe a little bit about what the Commission of Ufologists is in Brazil.
Yeah, we are a group of ufologists in Brazil, ufologists that have a background of research and experience on the field. So we are now, the commission has now 11 members, and I'm a member since 2009, and in 2017 I became a president of this commission. Well, our job is trying to get as much reports and documents from the Brazilian Air Force, Brazilian Army, Brazilian Navy, and Brazilian government, archives and files and documents that are under secret. So we went to discover these documents and let them to the society who can read it. So far, we got more than 5,000 pages of documents, secret documents, that now are available to everyone who wants to see it or copy or print it. And we have a lot of photos and a lot of films, but we're still missing. We're still missing many of many of photos of, for example, the plate operation, the Varginha Case. The photo that I saw when I was 15 years old, the classic flying saucer, was never published. I never found it in anywhere, just in that box. So our job, our effort is to make Freedom of Information Act. It's like a Freedom of Information Act of the classified documents in Brazil.
Well, that's kind of cool, because I know that in the last almost 6 or 7 years, the release of information out of Brazil on UFOs has really, really opened up. Now, Brazil has always been one of the places that has, I shouldn't say more UFO sightings than anywhere else. It's just maybe more UFO reported sightings than most other countries. Plus, you have a pretty good population there too, and it's it's something that people aren't afraid to come forward with, as opposed if you were like you say, a young pilot or something and not wanting to be ridiculed for seeing something in the Air Force. But the reporting itself is well documented, those reports that are coming in. So what do you think, are you guys, or is your organization, the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists, is that kind of responsible for this opening, would you say, of the world seeing more of the Brazilian UFO contacts, from this, particularly the Brazilian Air Force releasing camera footage from the aircraft on UFOs? Do you think you guys, was that you, your organization, kind of really pushing that, or did the government just decide one day we're just going to open the door and say, okay, this is what's going on?
No, the government never say that let's open it. Let's say that we are responsible for 95% of all documents and all photos and everything that the government just released until today. Of course, that other ufologists had a beautiful work pressing the government and militaries to release the documents, but the Commission of Brazilian Ufologists had 95% of all these efforts to make the documents be released. And all started in 1997 with A.J. Gevaert, is a Brazilian ufologist, the most prominent Brazilian ufologist in Brazil, one of the best of the world. And he started in 1997, and in 2005 he started a campaign, UFO Freedom Now, this campaign, and we started to press the government to release all the documents about UFO. So let's say that we are responsible for 95%, and we just want more. We are sure that we have much more to release.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. I think they're only releasing the ones that are possibly you can question, maybe. Well, actually, it's hard to question the ones from the military, the videos that you've got from the military aircraft chasing them. So that's kind of it's a harder one to argue, but like the older ones from the 50s and 60s and 70s, where they looked into it and it could have been a UFO, but we don't know who the witnesses are, and they're all dead now or whatever. Those are the easy ones to release. But if you keep pressing them, I'm sure it's coming. I really think it's coming to the point where we as a society are prepared a little bit better for understanding.
I agree with you, James. But they will, in my opinion, you'll never have a full disclosure. It's impossible. They will not disclosure cases from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. No, because if they do so, they will be responsible for many deaths. They're going to be responsible for a big lie, because many of the people that report UFO back that time, 40, 50, 70, was targeted as lunatics or crazy people. And these people lost their jobs, their families, their lives. So they're going to sue the government all of the world. And in my opinion, they're going to start with, they already started to prepare the society to the opening, this opening, the disclosure. But this disclosure is going to happen when, in one point, like for example, the NASA or the United States government or whatever come on TV and say, well, that object that was filmed over Washington D.C. is not a terrestrial object. It's not an airplane. So from that point, with a beautiful photo or beautiful film or 100 of witnesses, they're gonna make this starting point. From now on, we're gonna release, well, not all, but most part of information about UFOs. In the past, forget the past.
Yeah, just keep moving forward, not worry about what happened back then. And we won't, let's not get into too much about that stuff. What is happening now and why, and this is what we're doing about it. We are talking to a wonderful ufologist, Thiago Ticchetti. Did I say Ticchetti right?
Perfect.
Thiago Ticchetti. He is an author of a number of books. Please, you can go to his Facebook page and I will spell that for you. It is Ticchetti UFO Research, Thiago Luiz Ticchetti. Your last name is Ticchetti, UFO Research. Again, that's Ticchetti, UFO Research on Facebook. And I just went over to your YouTube page and I subscribed to your YouTube, which is Thiago, which is Thiago, Luiz, Luiz or Z, and Ticchetti, Ticchetti, Thiago Luiz Ticchetti at what page am I? Oh yeah, YouTube. It's like I bounce around like 3 different pages. I'm like, oh, it's on YouTube. Yeah, so please go over to his YouTube and look at a number of not only interviews that he's been involved in, but little bits of releases that he has done, and some UFO footage there. Again, that's on YouTube. Thiago, you've been doing this a long time. You are a crazy successful author about UFOs out in Brazil, actually, and not just restricted to Brazil, but talking about them all over the place. This newest book, I shouldn't say, is it the newest one? The one that's now in English, the UFO Contacts in Brazil. Is that your newest one?
Yes, it's my 11th book, the newest one, and the first in English, yeah.
Okay, now that one, you cover a number of different sightings in Brazil, which are fascinating. The Varginha Case, which I believe that was a possible crash back in around 1996. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because I know you looked into it a little bit further, and kind of in this newer book, you're resurrecting these old cases and looking at them with some more information that a lot of people didn't have back in the 90s, or some of these to go back to the 1950s. They didn't have back then, but you have accessed more information and are adding much more to the story. Tell my listener a little bit about the Varginha case and what you write about that.
Yeah, the Varginha case was possible, as you said, UFO crash. For me, as a ufologist, is a certain crash, but we just have to leave the doubt. It happened in 1996, in January 1996, when a UFO crashed in Varginha City. Varginha City is a city of Minas Gerais state in the southwest of Brazil. And this UFO crashed, and a lot of witnesses saw at least 4 or 5 alien beings. Well, it's not alien, so not human beings in the city, and a huge cover-up operation was held there in Varginha, with the Brazilian Army and Varginha fireman department took place there to capture these creatures and to get in touch with the witnesses and threat them to not to talk. Well, it's very common, Just remember Roswell, for example. Just remember Men in Black. And 3 of the main witnesses were three girls that was walking in the street, and they saw one of these creature crouched. This creature had 2 big red eyes, very, very, very bright red eyes. Was a brown color skin, and was shaking like being afraid. And those girls smelled. I smell like very bad smell, and they run to their house because they thought they saw the devil. And the mother of one of the girl come back to the place with the girls, but the creature was not there. So this a great operation to capture this creature happened in Varginha, and then in a week we just had, the next day after these witnesses, many ufologists went to Varginha to investigate the case. So we got more than 100 witnesses that saw the military in the city, saw the fireman chasing something, and people that participate in some way of the capture of the creatures spoke to us. And what we know now, now that 4 or 5 creatures were captured, 2 were alive, 3 were dead, 3 or 2 were dead, and they were put together with the UFO. Was a cylinder UFO, cylinder shape. The UFO was put in a truck, and the creatures went to the Unicamp University. Is a university in Campinas, in São Paulo. And there they were examined by some doctors. And after that, the creatures and the UFO were dispatched in an airplane that came from United States.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that week, for some reason, an airplane came from the United States with people from NASA and United States Army. We know that because we spoke with militaries of Brazil that was there. and to sign some kind of a deal or compromise, something like that. And the creators in the UFO was sent to the United States, and let's say that's just coincidence. But few time later, I think couple of years later, sometime later, the United States invited to Brazil to send the first Brazilian astronaut to the space. So, in my opinion, we exchange a UFO crash and 4 or 5 alien beings for a ticket to ride in space.
I don't know if that's a fair deal.
Yeah, I don't know either, but they made it.
I would have probably made a deal with the creature. Say, hey, look, if you get one of your friends to take us to space, you guys can all go home and take your ship back. But give us a little bit of advanced technology, and that'll be nice.
Would be better.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And of course, people say, well, there, it was investigated. There really wasn't much going on there. Well, when you have the army show up and you've got the fire brigades racing around chasing things, if it's not a big deal, you wouldn't have all that happening. It's not like a helicopter crashed where you get, the police show up, the fire department shows up, and you get some federal investigators. If you get the army showing up, then usually they're not only there to find out what's going on, but to keep the general population away from what's going on.
Yeah, it's very weird because we do have a military base in Varginha. It's a Sergeant Army's base, but the people there never saw the huge operation of many trucks and soldiers all over the city, all of the taken places and isolating areas and not allowing people to cross that areas. So something really happened there, and we are sure that was a UFO that crashed, and the creatures were captured and took to the airport and then to the United States.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And of course, that's one of the many stories you cover in your new book, the UFO Contacts in Brazil, which, if anybody is looking for that, if you just Google UFO Contacts in Brazil, probably take you to Amazon or wherever you can get it. And it's also out in Kindle. So, you can haul it around with you on your iDevice or whatever you read your Kindles in. One of the other cases you cover, which is one from 1977, and this is a really fascinating one. Thiago, this one is like out of a horror movie. It's the operation, I think it's Operation Prato?
Yeah, it's a plate operation.
Plate? Okay. Plate. Yeah, that is... It was almost described as like these blood-sucking beams of light or something. What was the hell that about?
Yeah, this case it's amazing. Until nowadays, we're still looking for the films of these ships and this alien beings, because we know that the Brazilian Air Force have it. Everything started on 1977 when people from several cities in the north of Brazil, and Colares and Pará in Pará State, and Belém in Pará State, they were claiming that they have been attacked by lights in the sky. Well, these lights just appeared at night or at day, and shoot at a beam of light in people, and the woman, this beam of light hit over the breast, a little over the breast, and in the man in this leg. So many people are being attacked, and doesn't matter if you are in your house, because this beam of light could go through the ceiling and hit you. It's amazing, without break any ceiling, just just light going through the ceiling and hit you in the leg or in the breast for a woman. And many people went to the doctor, and in Colares, for example, just have one doctor, Dr. Vilite, is still alive. He's a very smart person and very honest person as well. And Dr. Vilite saw that all these people had anemia, so they lost blood.
Okay.
And as far as we know, one people actually died because of that, because it was hit by this light, and he got anemia and died. And the mayor of this Colares city asked the Brazilian Air Force in Pará state to investigate, because many city was getting ghost city, because people are running from the city, from the lights, attacked it, and we that time they call it the chupa. It's like suck.
Yep.
And the Brazilian Air Force sent a crew headed by, back that time, Captain Wiranje Holanda, and they started to investigate, to get testimony from the people that saw something, and they start to camp in a beach, camp in a jungle to try to see something, and they saw many things. They saw UFOs from many types and forms, and they saw UFOs at night, at day, and they recorded. They took photos. In my book, I have more than 20 photos of plate operation, official photos from Brazilian Air Force that got released because of the work of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists. And they start investigating. They film the films we're still looking for. We asked the Brazilian Air Force and Brazilian government about the films, and they said to us that they don't have it, but Holanda said they have more than 22 hours of films of UFOs. And they investigate when Holanda, in one opportunity, Holanda was so close of alien. I mean, so close as 2 meters away. And they got all the information, all the reports, all the photos and the films, and went back to the headquarters and to his commander and told him, well, we have to investigate more because look what I got. And for some reason, the commander said, well, the operation is closed. You don't have to investigate anymore. And he asked, why? No, it's a superior order, so just finish this work and go back to your base. So the plate information was ended on December of 1997, but as far we know, the investigation continued until 1982 by, again, United States government. They went there, scientists. They went there, militaries to investigate until 1982.
That might be where all the video, or not video, but that may be where the film footage went. The U.S. government, the U.S. government may have taken it.
Perhaps we don't know. We try here. We have here in Brazil. We have like the FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. Yeah. That you have in the United States. You are in Canada, but you have in the United States. We have this kind of law as well. And we asked many times, and the government said to us that they don't have it. And in one opportunity in 2015, we had 2013. Sorry, we had the opportunity to get a meeting with representatives of the three forces: the Air Force, the Navy, and Army, to create a group to investigate UFOs. Half militaries, half civilians, ufologists civilians. And there we asked to one of the lieutenant colonel of the Brazilian Air Force about these films, and he said, well, I think or we miss it or we destroy it, but we don't have it anymore. I don't believe in him.
Yeah. You know, it was fascinating too. Tell my listener a little bit about now the captain who was in charge of that investigation. He actually did an interview back in 1997, and 3 months later, he hung himself allegedly.
Yeah, no, he did.
Oh, good.
He suffered.
Not all good, but yeah, he wasn't like the conspiracy theorists. He wasn't murdered or something.
I know. But he had a problem through depression, and he had very health problems, and he killed himself.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, because unfortunately, with him went a lot of answers to the questions you have.
No. Captain Hollanda told everything that he knew. He knew everything, and he gave sketches and drawings and photos that he had. So I don't think that he kept something. He took something to his grave. I don't think so. I think because he wanted to share everything that he knew about UFOs. After that, he was skeptic before the case, the Prato operation. He was very skeptical about UFO, never believed them. After that, he became a very true believer, like Joseph Hynek, just like him.
Yeah. Yeah, you get into those investigations, and as an investigator myself, as a policeman for so long here in Canada, you kind of get an idea of the process of an investigation and what to believe and what not to believe as you move through it, the speed, and you control the speed, flow, and direction of the investigation itself. And once you get kind of competent with that, you can cut through the bull or the crap really easy, and determine what is real and what is not real, and what witnesses to believe, and who to kind of put is into the not real good witness category, and then the really good witness category. So I can see how that investigation itself would have started his mind going off into all sorts of different directions, and opening himself up to more curiosity, and with curiosity comes the need to ask more questions.
Yeah, you're perfect. You're correct.
That was a weird one too, because they talked about people losing blood, and I've never heard that before in a UFO or an alien encounter, is blood being taken from people without the people being taken and put onto a craft or something like that, but just to do it remotely by light.
Yeah, that's amazing, because many of these lights were airships, and in some and several types of forms of shapes of these UFOs, and in many times the people could see the aliens inside these UFOs. The aliens were there, moving these instruments aboard the UFO, and the lights hitting the people, and the aliens there make movements of the controls of that. It's amazing. The Prato operation should be a very good Hollywood movie.
I agree. It is science fiction almost right off the bat. Somebody could write that as something fiction, but with the amount of people involved in it, obviously it was science fact that it. Yeah,
it be based on a real events, like something like that, fiction, but based on a real event, because it's amazing. The Prato operation is amazing.
With the books, or in your book, UFO Contacts in Brazil, you say you've got a number of photographs from that case. Are they photographs that include pictures of the craft?
Yeah, they included. The more than, I think, between 20 and 30 photos of this craft, and they very different shapes, Some you can see just light. Some you can see like a flying disc, a classic flying disc as well. You can see cylinder, and you have many of reports and photos of landings, UFO landings, and photos of people that were hit by the beam of light. So in my book have more than 500 pages and more than 300 photos or illustrations. So the reader is going to have a lot of information with that.
Oh yeah, it is, and my listener knows unless it's got pictures in it, I'm not going to buy it. So, because I need pictures in a book. And again, if anyone wants to get a copy of that UFO Contacts in Brazil, you can go to just Google it and UFO Contacts in Brazil. It'll bring up a number of different places you can get it at. And if you want, you can also go to you can buy stuff on your Facebook page too. The Ticchetti UFO Research, Thiago Luiz Ticchetti on his Facebook page. Please like and follow him there. Also go over to his YouTube and bounce around and check him out there. But again, it's on Amazon. If you want to send all your money to Amazon, and Thiago gets $1. So, but the Amazons will deliver it to you even in the pandemic, because the Amazon.
Well, they are not delivering to Brazil. They're not delivering because the Brazil is closed. All the airports is closed to international flights.
Oh, right, really? Yeah, because your book would be printed somewhere else.
Yeah. Inside Brazil, we have a transportation. You can buy it, but in other countries they cannot deliver it to Brazil.
Or go to your favorite bookstore and look in the window, because you can't get in. It's the government. They're keeping you from getting this information. Yeah. No, but after the apocalypse, we'll be able to buy this, so it's okay. You can look it up. But if it's got pictures in it,
you can buy on Kindle format. So
Kindle, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I better get my pictures on Kindle and clear and precisely.
Yeah, I prefer book.
Yeah. So that'll be good too. Yeah. Because I do too, and if it's got pictures, like I say, I'm going to get it. And I'm just I actually hovered over top of the buy it right now on Amazon when I looked it up. So I was like, I should buy this right now, but I'm in the middle of a conversation. It's very cool. Now, you also talk about an abductee. Now, this fellow Antonio Villas-Boas Case, abducted in 1957. He was a farmer, ended up going on to be a lawyer later in life. But was that one of the first abductees or recorded abduction cases in Brazil that you're aware of?
Yeah, it was one of the first. Much before than Barney and Better Hill. Barney and Better Hill was the first, they got publicity, abduction publicity in the world. And Villas-Boas just appeared in the papers 1 year later of Barney and Better Hill, because what happened to him was in 1957. Well, he was a farmer, and he was working in a field at night, because during the day it was very hot. So he preferred to work at night. And in one of that night, he was in his tractor, and he saw a ball of light just hanging in the front of him, and this ball of light started to make movement, going and coming back until this light got bigger, so was approaching and landed in front of him. And from this UFO, three aliens start to go in his direction, grab him, and took him inside the UFO. Well, inside the UFO, they took his clothes off. Using a sponge, they clean him with liquid. It's like a jelly liquid, and took a glass and took a little sample of blood from his chin, Well, and left him in a room with no windows, nothing, just a room in a kind of bed. Well, sometime later, entered in this room a female, a creature, female, much look like a woman, terrestrial woman, with blonde hair and Asian eye, very short girl. And for some reason he was very afraid, but at the same time he got very excited, and he had a sexual relation with this woman, with this alien, and he didn't know why, because he was afraid. He was very afraid, but well, something made him to do it. And after the relation, he asked her where she came from, and she just pointed to his belly, to her belly, and pointed to the sky. And Villas-Boas, well, understood that, well, she came from the stars and now she's carrying my son, my baby. And after that, they put his clothes again and left him in the same place they took him. Well, Villas-Boas became a lawyer, and he never wanted some kind of publicity of that, and he never changed a word of his said. Every time that a newspaper or a magazine or a reporter came to him to ask him about his case, he spoke the same thing, and he never got any money with that. So this is an amazing case with a sexual relation between humans and aliens much before the 90s, because in 90s we start to have the abductions, and many women saying that been abducted to put a baby in his belly, and 3 months later they were abducted again, and they took this fetus away. So the Antonio Villas-Boas case is a classic. It's a very important case in Brazil.
Yeah, that is interesting too, because like you say, in the 90s, there are, and friends of mine, actually, people I know who have come to me and talk privately about, because, and again, this goes back to that whole, like you say, with Antonio, he didn't do this because he wanted money or to become famous. This was kind of like, holy crap, what happened here? And it's kind of embarrassing. So yeah, I don't really need to be talking about it that much. And people are going to think I'm crazy. So you don't kind of go out and say, hey, here I am, I'm going to go. And especially in 1957, 1958, there wasn't you'd probably get locked up because people would think you're crazy. So you'd want to keep that to yourself. And I know that from talking to a guy like Travis Walton, who is basically, believe me or you don't, I don't give a rat's butt, because I don't care. This is what happened to me, and I'm not here for the money. He's retired now, and he's written a book, and he likes going around telling his story. And he's actually had in 2014, another incident of contact with extraterrestrials, or an alien contact, or ET contact. But it's like, believe me or you don't, I don't care. It's one of those things. Now, going back to Antonio, his not wanting to make money on it and not changing his story makes it more credible. Much more credible than as a police officer, you know that. Well, they don't want money, and he didn't want any publicity. Just wanting to know what happened to me. What happened to me? What was that? It's a curiosity on what happened to me at this time, but I can't ask questions until I tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And then you can explain it. And I know a lot of psychic mediums who do that kind of regression therapy where they'll go back where you've lost, like he was gone from the farmer's his field for 4 hours. There are some people who are gone for 10 but have no memory of what happened in those 10 hours, and these psychics will actually sit you down and they'll do a regression, and they'll bring that time back for you and explain what happened in there. But I have friends who in the 90s and up until just a few years ago, like literally 2 years ago, quote unquote become pregnant, have an ultrasound at around 2.5, 3 months, and then all of a sudden realize they're not pregnant anymore, and there's no fetus, and have missing time, or they'll actually remember going to a craft, and one of the people I know actually is allowed to continue and go see her kids and where they're growing, and seeing them in school on craft. Whoa. So that is, her name's Samantha Mowat. She's fascinating extraterrestrial contactee, lives here in Canada, but she is permitted to go see that stuff, which is fascinating to me. But in his case, man, in 1957, and the ETs that he's coming in contact with don't sound a lot like the ETs that in the 90s people were coming in contact with, or the ones lately. That 5 foot tall race of beings is kind of a bit different than obviously, and I'm going to say they're not like the Greys people describe. They're just a different group of beings.
They were very, very different. They were very different.
And it makes sense that, if you're going to, before you're going to have intercourse with one of their beings, they're going to sanitize you, probably gas you with some kind of antibacterial, antiviral agent, because we're dirty humans, and before you're going to go anywhere. So and they checked his blood type beforehand to make sure everything was going to work out. So you're it.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'm always curious about things like that too, is if this happens a lot, or did happen back then, a lot more than we know, again, but not reported because people were going to mention that they were out having sex with a 5 foot tall alien while they were supposed to be working. So who they're going to talk to about that?
They're going to call you crazy.
Yeah, or they, some people, for some, or let's say for Antonio's purpose, he's just one of the lucky ones, or semi-lucky. He actually remembered it, where other people may not have remembered the details. All of a sudden, I saw a UFO, I got really dizzy, and then I woke up 4 hours later. With
that's
my
what
clothes.
Happened with the most part of the abducted.
Yeah, but maybe his personality, his spirit, his soul, or whatever, his energy didn't allow them to block that, or they didn't care.
I agree.
Yeah, it was a drive-by sperm extraction, and no one will believe him anyway. He's out in the field. Let's move on and see what happens. Yeah, his kids will be like 62 years old now, so that's kind of interesting too. Well, human years anyway. We'll see. Maybe it depends who they are. Which that is, to me, that's absolutely fascinating. You also talk about the Ubatuba case, which is, again, back in the 1950s, before a lot of, other than the Roswell incident with bits and pieces of UFOs, but in Brazil, you had a possible material from a UFO being analyzed. And the unfortunate part is when that case first came out, there was only a letter to the editor of a newspaper, to a reporter, with items in it, with the signature on the letter almost impossible to translate or to read, and claiming this came from a UFO crash. From that original story that was back in the 50s, in your research, did you expand on that any in the book?
Yeah, this case is very controversial because this letter, just a letter to the newspaper. With the letter, we had some debris of the lady UFO that exploded over the Ubatuba Beach, and in São Paulo is a beach in the city, is a city in São Paulo, and some parts of this UFO, when it exploded, drop it in a sand. So some people got this debris, and and 2 or 3 parts of this debris was sent to the newspaper in Rio de Janeiro. Well, to analyze this debris, we are talking about 1957. So the technology that we have today, well, in 57 there was nothing. They destroyed all these 3 samples were destroyed by the analysis the material. One of the analysis shows that this piece have 99.9% of magnesium that is impossible to find on Earth. 99.9 magnesium is impossible to find anywhere in our planet. But the results were not conclusive. As far as I know, Andrea Simondini from Argentina, she got a few years later, she got a letter from Argentinian sailor that sent to her 2 debris, 2 parts of this UFO that exploded in Ubatuba. And Jacques Vallée came from France last year to take a piece of this material to analyze in France or United States. I don't remember where Jacques Vallée lives now, or France or United States or England. I don't remember. But he came to Argentina to get a sample of this material to analyze. Well, I think Ubatuba happened. It's a real case, but we still missing many parts of this puzzle. We don't have much information. We don't have much official information. When I say official information, is about the Navy or Army or Air Force, something from that. But I truly believe that something happened and a UFO really exploded over the beach, and some people got pieces of this UFO. It's not the same. It's not the first time that something like that happened. We have Shag Harbor in Canada as well as a UFO that crashed in the ocean. We have in Brazil in 1974 in Navegante Beach, UFO crashing in the water as well. And we have many. If I'm not wrong, Cape Girardeau, United States, a UFO exploded over a boat that killed a dog and hurt the people there and the kid. If I'm not wrong, the Cape Girardeau case, I think that was that. So we have a lot of cases of UFO exploding on Earth.
Yeah, if they're gonna, it's like anything else. There's going to be accidents, and when you're coming into our atmosphere, that's heavy and gravity heavy, and may also have a lot of elements that they don't have on their planets, because magnesium itself, to have pure magnesium piece on a craft, it has issues being around water, and maybe you're coming from another system that doesn't have a lot of water in it. That could cause all sorts of issues with the structure of a craft that's almost 100% magnesium, which is fascinating anyway. You can get magnesium. The only way I can ever possibly think of getting magnesium with that level is to actually mine a piece of magnesium out of the ground. But it's, how do you make a craft out of 100% magnesium? So those are all things that are fascinating to me, and that it kind of leaves it to the imagination of the reader to figure this stuff out. We've touched on a few of the things, Thiago, on that you've got into a 500-page book with 300 photographs. Out of all the research that you put into this newest book, which is, again, it's for if you just tuned in, it's UFO Contacts in Brazil, which can be found basically on anywhere you can buy a book, and I keep pointing people to Amazon, but UFO Contacts in Brazil. As you were doing the research for this book, and even going back to some of your other ones, what is your favorite? What is the one that really, when you think of UFOs and Brazil, what is that one that is the first one that pops in your head that you like talking about?
James, it's hard to choose one of these your sons as the preferred. Well, I like very much the plate operation. I like Varginha. I like the chapter about the UFO crashes in Brazil. But I have one, it's amazing for me, is the official night of the UFOs that happened in 1986, when more than 22 UFOs were over several cities of Brazil, and they were seen on the ground, they were seen on the radar, they were seen by pilots, and for almost 10 hours from one day to another, there was just playing cat and dog with aircrafts from Brazilian Air Force. These UFOs appeared over Campinas and then went to São José dos Campos in São Paulo, and then the appears of Brasilia, and then appears over São Paulo, appears over Rio de Janeiro, and it was like an invasion because there were 22 UFOs, and the Brazilian army got in alert, and 5 jet fighters were scrambled to pursue and identify the objects. Well, 3 of these 5 pilots saw the UFOs, saw by on naked eyes, let's say, and 2 of them just got them on the radar screen on board of their planes, the F5 airplane and ATX 26 Chavante airplane. Chavante no, Mirage and F5. Well, in one of these reports, Captain Jordan report to the tower, the control tower in São José dos Campos, that he was chasing one of these UFOs, and suddenly he became chased by 10 UFOs, 5 in his left side, 5 in his right side. And all the communications, all the radio communications is now available on YouTube. We got it, okay. we got it as well, like as I said, on the Information Freedom Act, we got this radio conversation, got publicity to everyone that want to hear it. And this case was amazing because at the end of the pursuit, and when their planes land and the UFO disappear, the Ministry of the Brazilian Air Force, a former ex-ministry of Brazilian Air Force, was already in their plane and chased one of these UFO. He was in another plane. He was the chief of Petrobras, his Brazilian Petroleum Company. He was the president of Petrobras, and he was in an airplane named Xingu. And he saw this UFO, and he was of course a pilot as well, but a retired pilot. And he ordered to the pilot of his plane, well, get away, let me pilot this. And he got control of the plane and chased the UFO. And after this event, the Brazilian Air Force Ministry went to make a press conference and claimed that what they chased was not from this planet, was something intelligent, and they could send they would make a report. Well, we still waiting this report since 1986.
It's coming. It's on somebody's desk. One of the things that I really liked about that story, his UFO night in Brazil, was the air traffic controller who kind of figured out if they dimmed the lights at the Air Force, the UFOs got closer and they turned it back on. So he was actually the first guy to see the UFOs, and when he warned Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro control towers, they confirmed the plots on the radar were coming too. Then he took control of the runway lights and flashed them. And he was trying to make contact with the UFOs, allegedly. Well, this is as the story goes. And he reports whenever the lights were dim, the UFOs would come closer to the airport, and every time the lights were brighter, they would fly away.
Yeah, that's it. And we had many witnesses from militaries to civilians. It was amazing. It's a dance in the Brazil sky that day.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And it reminds me of the story is called the Phoenix Lights that happened in 1997. Like yours happened in 1986 in May, and the Phoenix Lights were 1997, 11 years later in March, where literally there was a parade of UFOs from one part of Arizona all the way down the center of the state, witnessed by 10% of the population. And they just kind of slowly traveled like a parade, like down, being seen by everybody. And they were all different shapes and sizes. And, it's, of course, the military comes out saying, no, those were flares.
Yeah, always flares or balloons, something, always.
Yeah, some of this stuff was seen with the naked eye, not just as lights, but in the Phoenix incidents, those big V-shaped ones were dark with the lights kind of inserted up inside of them. Yeah. And they were close enough to the ground where people could look up and go, yeah, that is something big that's blocking out the sky all around it, plus the lights that are up inside of it. So no, it's not flares. And these aren't, they don't move like flares. Even military personnel were saying, yeah, they don't move like flares. And my friend Dr. Lynn Kitai did a documentary on the Phoenix Lights, and she saw them even a couple of days beforehand. She was looking at smaller orb shaped, almost like even basketball sized lights going through the valley floor, not too far from where she lives. So when this culminates into a parade of UFOs, she was very, very fascinated, as one may be, to see all this stuff coming down. But yeah, the UFO night, is that, and obviously is that in your book, the new one?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. It better be. Now, because there was so many of them, there's a lot of photos of them too.
There's no photos, but we have illustration about that. Yep. We have photos of the pilots and the reports of every pilot. So there's no photo because we are looking for, and we know that have at least two of these jets, the Brazilian Force jets, were equipment with a video camera. So they filmed the UFOs. And we're looking for that since 1986. We know that they have it, this film, and we are still looking for it.
Okay, that's fascinating. What did they? In your research, what is the earliest contact or UFO reports that you've bumped into? Does it go further than 19? or in your book, in your just regular research, I know there was something in my poking around in about 1947 in Sao Paulo, a laborer named Jose Higgins. He saw something, but I couldn't find anything earlier than 1947.
Well, in my book, we start with pre-1930s. So we have a lot of cases from the 30s, and my books is divided by decades. So the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, until 2015. So it's like a history of ufology in Brazil from decade to another decade. So I think have a lot of information there, and many cases are unknown from many parts of most people.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, because there are the ones that you see famously. It's on YouTube. You'll see the camera footage from the fighter jets and things like that. But it's all the little ones. Like there was a security guard from a furniture factory abducted, back in the 70s or something too. That was kind of an interesting event where he stated that the beings that took him resembled Japanese people. I'm sorry, I don't know much. That's all. It's kind of coming to my memory or something about somebody at a furniture factory in Brazil being abducted by the Japanese. No, that's the way he described them. He said, that it was the easiest way of trying to describe them to somebody, when he came back on, I just got tranquilized by 3 people outside. And imagine the security guard, and now you're the security guard's boss going, yeah, maybe you should take some time off. You didn't stop the people breaking into the furniture store, but you did get kidnapped by a UFO. So that's going to look funny in your report for the next day. But it's interesting. Why do you think, or I should, let me rephrase this. Do you think Brazil is any different than any other place, or is it just the type of reporting that has been going on there that has so many incidents?
No, I don't think Brazil is different. Brazil is the size of a continent. Brazil is the 50th largest country in the world. We are 80% of South America. So we have a huge area, and in Brazil we have all types of let's say environment of vegetation. Let's say I lost the word, but we have in Brazil jungle, we have Brazil desert, we have Brazil savanna, we have snow in Brazil as well. In the south of Brazil we have snow. So we are a huge country with 220 million people, but we do have some cases that I never heard before. For example, the plate operation must be happening in another country. I don't know, but I never heard. Well, many people say that Brazil has very unique natural research. I think so. We have more than 70% of all water, drinkable water in the world. We have in Brazil, in Amazonia, and we have the Amazonia. So I think, I don't want to say that Brazil is very different, but we have different cases. But we don't know what happened, for example, in China, in North Korea, in Vietnam, in Africa. I'm sure that there are many amazing cases in all of the world, and many incredible cases in Brazil that we never know about it, because they are big countries, or if not big countries, they have no a system of communication like in the United States. In the United States, we have the MUFON. We have the most part of people have internet, so the information goes faster and easier than Brazil, than in Africa and China.
Yeah.
But I think Brazil is a hot spot.
Oh, I think so too, and I think you're right when you talk about the different geography of the country. You've got so many different places. Mind you, you've also got there are places that people have never been to or haven't been to for 200 years, if there is anybody there at all. There, you have a lot of area that is unoccupied and unexplored still.
Yeah.
So it's like Canada, we're like the second largest country by size on the planet, but you have over 6 times the population we do.
Yeah.
Like 90% of our country is vacant. So and I don't blame it. It's cold in some places, and mosquitoes. If it's not cold, there's giant mosquitoes. But there's no snakes that'll bite you.
Is that mosquitoes in Canada?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But they don't carry malaria, and we don't have frogs. If you lick them, you'll die. We don't have a lot of things that'll kill you, if you run into a big grizzly bear or something.
Yeah, you have the bigger food as well.
Yeah, but you learn to stay away from them plus they're not around here. They're up in the places where no one lives. Because when people lived up there, they got eaten by grizzlies. No, I live in a rainforest.
Really?
My rainforest is completely different from your rainforest.
Yeah.
Because it's just fir trees. It looks like Christmas all year round. It's just all trees, but there's not snow, and so it doesn't snow a lot here. It rains more. It's on the west coast, the south left corner of Canada. And in the Pacific Northwest, we're on the Pacific Ocean side, so we get the Japanese current that warms things up. So we get rain coming in from that. And in the summer, it's in the, metric wise where, it gets up into the 30s. So it's 80s and sometimes 90s, depending on how high you are above sea level. So it is hot, but it's so much of it is unexplored. It could have anything out there. And when I look at a place like Brazil taking up that much of the continent of South America, yeah, there's a lot of places out there people just don't go to. And you could have a full-on UFO base. Heck, you could have a city somewhere out there that no one could pay attention to. Do you get a lot of reports, or have you got reports from the Brazilian Navy or UFOs in relation to being underwater sightings or coming up out of the ocean?
Yeah, we have the UFO crash on water in 1974 in Navegantes Beach. Was investigated by Navy. We also have the Trindade Island photos. That's in my book from Baraúna, who took a picture of Saturn UFO shape in the 50s as well, but Navy and the Army, we don't have much reports. And we don't have much case of USOs, the submarine objects. We don't have it. The most part of our reports are from Air Force or civilians or people, normal people, let's say.
Now, we did touch a little bit this about reporting and your dad being in the Air Force, and you talking at one point you did have contact with some of his peer group, his friends that were pilots, but there was a reluctance to report because they were pulled out of their aircraft and told you had to go for a psychiatric assessment if you saw a couple of UFOs flying over a mountain or something. So it's not maybe that, a lot of those guys didn't see them, but they just don't want to stop flying. Yeah,
there's in 2010, if I'm not wrong, 2010 and 2011, the Brazilian Air Force published a resolution that all the pilots that saw something strange in the sky during his duty must report it when landed, because they have to investigate what happened in the sky. But many of these pilots never gonna say a word, because if say so, when he landed, he must go to a room to be interrogated, and then go to a doctor to
the psychiatric assessment.
Psychiatric to see if this pilot is nuts, crazy, or he saw something like that. And he were forced to not fly for 30 days, at least 30 days. And 30 days you don't have paid, you cannot fly, so it's very difficult to them. I spoke with some pilots that talked to me and said, well, I got in touch with the control tower, and control tower got the object on a radar screen and asked me, well, sir, do you want to report it? And the pilot said, report it what? I see nothing. So just don't get on record, and just don't have problem after that.
Oh yeah, it's so, why even bother? If you did see something, as long as it's not another aircraft coming in from Argentina or someplace, or something, something a threat to the country, just keep your mouth shut. Maybe talk about it over a beer with your friends, but don't say it officially.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's too bad. That kind of gets in the way of collecting very, very important data, I think. But eventually, the other thing too is that eventually this may come out when they retire. But by then, do they have camera footage, gun camera footage of the UFO, or I guess that'd be the other way of saying, I wasn't crazy, look at the video. So, or I didn't see a UFO, I saw something, and here's the video footage. That would be an easy way to get out of it. Just don't come out and say, hey, I saw 3 UFOs flying, and they all look like discs. Just say, I saw 3 unidentified objects, I videotaped them, and I'm passing the video over to you.
Yeah, my father-in-law, he was a Brazilian Air Force pilot as well. And he had a sighting while he's flying from Rio de Janeiro to Natal. Natal is Rio Grande do Norte state's capital. And it was in the 80s. And, he passed away almost 2 years ago, but I got his testimony filmed 5-6 years ago, and he told me that he was flying a ATX-26 Chavante, the plane, and it was at night, and he was in a cockpit of the plane. There's one spot airplane, and he saw a light coming in his direction and passing him very fast. And the airplane has no onboard radar, so he got in touch with the control tower on land, and the control tower saw nothing on the screen, on the radar screen. And while he was in contact with the control tower, the UFO appeared again in his left side, and just was in his left side for 5 minutes, and then speed away again in front, and then speed away again back, and speed away again in the front, and disappear. Well, I asked him if it was an extraterrestrial aircraft that he saw, and he told to me that, well, I am not sure if they were extraterrestrial, but it was not from this planet. So he was a pilot. He was a very very serious pilot, very condecorated pilot.
Yeah, I like that. I can't say it's extraterrestrial, but it's not from this planet.
Yeah.
You make a good politician. Let me just kind of move away around that. Yeah, it's fascinating. And I really want to thank you for dropping by. We've been talking to Thiago Luiz Ticchetti. And if you would like to follow his YouTube, please go to it. I'm going to spell the name for all my Anglo friends. Thiago, Luiz, with a Z or a Z, Ticchetti, Thiago Luiz Ticchetti. He is the president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists. He is a writer, and today we've been talking about his newest book, the UFO Contacts. Let me say that again. The UFO Contacts in Brazil. It is his first book that he's put out in English, and he's written a number of other ones. And if you go on to his Facebook page or YouTube, or even looking up on Amazon UFO Contacts in Brazil, and you'll see all the other ones he's written. And if you speak Portuguese, great. You can have, there's a ton of other books on ufology in Brazil. So Thiago, thank you very much for coming by today.
Thank you, James. Hope your listeners like it. And thank you again for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. And we'll drop by again and say hi to the kids for me.
I will. And say hi to your dog for me as well.
I will. I'll say hi to Kirby for you.
Thank you very much, James.
Watching you while you sleep all alone.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey. Let's be careful out there.